Hello and welcome to Shikara Academy's UPSC Mains PYQ series. In this live series, we are discussing all the UPSC GS Mains questions asked by UPSC in the past years. In this session, we will be discussing about the 2024 GS Paper 3 and we'll be discussing question number 16 to question number 20 along with their model answers. Now starting with question number 16, what are asteroids? How real is the threat of them causing extinction of life? What strategies have been developed to prevent such a catastrophe? Now, it is a 15-mark question that we have to answer in 250 words. Mapping it with the syllabus, we can see that it has been asked from the subject of science and technology, and that is the awareness in the field of space. So, it is question on the space technology. And the question is asking us three things. That is, we have to define what are asteroids, and we have to evaluate how real is the threat of them causing the extinction of life on the earth, and then we have to write the strategies that have been developed in order to prevent the catastrophe that is caused by the impact of the asteroids. So while writing the answer, the approach that we'll be following that is that in introduction we describe the asteroids. Okay, we write the definition of asteroids. Then in body we address the other demands of the question. That is, we write the threat perception of the asteroids, the threat level that is caused by the asteroids, and the strategies to prevent the asteroid catastrophe. Then in conclusion we will be summarizing our answer. Now, in this conclusion, we are not writing a way forward because we are writing about the strategies or a way forward method or recommendations in the body of the answer itself. So, repeating those points in the conclusion will be a futile thing to do. Now, starting with the introduction, asteroids are rocky celestial bodies orbiting the Sun, primarily located between the Mars and Jupiter in the asteroid belt. Okay, so that is the basic definition of an asteroid. So these are the rocky celestial bodies. They orbit around the sun just like the planets, but majority of the asteroids, they are located in the asteroid belt that is between the orbit of Mars and Jupiter. These asteroids, they vary in size from few meters to hundred of kilometers in their diameter, while most remain in stable orbit. So most of the asteroids are in the stable orbit in the asteroid belt. Some of them deviate from this belt from their own orbits into the Earth's path and pose a potential hazard. So if any asteroid deviates from its path, then it comes in a it deviates from its path, then it might come in Earth's path and might collide with the Earth. Then the threat of asteroids. The first is the historical evidence. Okay, how we are going to substantiate this threat of the asteroids with writing the points. First is the historical evidence that the extinction of dinosaurs around 65 million years ago is widely linked to a massive asteroid impact in the Chicxulub, Mexico. So we have the Yucatan Peninsula. Yucatan Peninsula in near Gulf of Mexico, and that place is believed to be a strike point of for an asteroid. That is an asteroid strike there 65 million years ago, and that sheer amount of energy that it released that was responsible for the extinction of dinosaurs. Second is the near Earth objects or NEOs. So NASA estimates over 30,000 near Earth orbits that have been detected, with around 2,000 of them are the having the potential hazard. So near the Earth's orbit, there are 30,000 such identified objects, and out of those 30,000, 2,000 are classified to be having some potential hazard for the Earth. Third is the realistic risk. Though large-scale collisions are rare, okay, so the impact or the chances of a collision is really less. That is once in millions of years. So after the 65 million years have passed and no such major impact of a asteroid has taken place, but smaller impacts, they are very frequent. Like in 2013, there was a meteor strike in Russia. So meteor is when an asteroid enters the Earth's atmosphere and we see a shooting star. That is a meteor, and the part of the asteroid or part of the rocky debris that remains on the ground that makes an impact on the Earth, that is known as a meteorite. Then there is global consequences. A large asteroid impact could trigger tsunamis, wildfires, atmospheric dust, climate cooling, and possible extinction level events. Okay, so what are the possible events? Immediately, it can trigger earthquakes, it can trigger tsunamis, wildfires, atmospheric dust. Because of the impact, a lot of dust will be suspended in the atmosphere. That will lead to atmospheric cooling or climate cooling because the sun rays will be blocked on reaching the from reaching the Earth's surface, and it will all this will lead to a possible ice age, leading to extinction at mass level. Then what are the strategies that the humankind or humanity has deployed in order to prevent such asteroid catastrophe? So first is the early detection and tracking. So as we have seen, NASA has been and the other space bodies around the Earth, they are detecting and tracking these near Earth orbits or the near Earth objects. And NASA's Planetary Defense Coordination Office and international collaboration track hazardous asteroid or the near Earth orbit objects. Then there are telescopes and space missions to map the NEO trajectories or the we have to track the trajectories of these near Earth objects. Then after detection, after tracking, what if there is a possible likelihood of an impact? How we can deflect that upcoming or incoming asteroid? So there are deflection technologies. First is the kinetic impactor method. So NASA's DART mission in 2022, it successfully altered the orbit of an asteroid that is dimorphos. Okay. Then there is gravity tractor. So a spacecraft hovers near an asteroid using gravitational pull to shift its path. So now, if an asteroid is coming and we hit it with a human or man-made object and we provide a kinetic impact. So with that kinetic impact, the orbit of that asteroid can be changed. Other thing is that we place a human man-made object or a spacecraft near that asteroid if it is not that large, and the gravity impact, because gravity is a force that takes place between uh, that is observed between two different bodies. Okay, the two different bodies, they exert the force of gravity on each other. So that spacecraft will be exerting certain force on that asteroid, upcoming asteroid, incoming asteroid, and will deflect its path. Then there is laser ablation and nuclear options, so focused energy on and or controlled blast to deflect an asteroid. Then there are global cooperation. UN's Committee on Peaceful Use of Outer Space promotes the coordinated planetary defense strategies, because an asteroid catastrophe is such a big catastrophe that the entire world will suffer and the entire world will have to come together in order to prevent such catastrophe. Okay. Then in conclusion, we can summarize the answer by writing that the asteroid threat, though very infrequent, is scientifically real. This threat is scientifically real with potential of a catastrophic impact. Advances like the DART mission demonstrate humanity's ability to mitigate risks. A combination of early detection, technological innovation, and global cooperation is crucial to prevent asteroid driven extinction events in the future. So, we have summarized the answer and we have also written a forward looking line or a way forward line. Moving on to the next question, that is question number 17. What is disaster resilience? How is it determined? Describe various elements of resilience framework. Also mention the global targets of Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction. That is from 2015 to 2030. Now it is also a 15-mark question that we have to answer in 250 words. Mapping it with this syllabus, we can see that it has been asked from the subject of disaster management, and the topic is disaster management itself. And it is a question on disaster resilience. And the question is asking us four things. We have to define what is disaster resilience. Then we have to write how it is determined or the determination of disaster resilience. Third, we have to describe the various elements of the resilience framework. Okay, like what are the different elements of a resilience framework should be. Then we write about the Sendai framework. Now, in introduction, we will be describing the disaster resilience. Okay. Then in body, we address the demand of the question, the further demands of the question. That is, we write the determination of the disaster resilience and the elements of a resilience framework. What different elements must be there in a resilience framework if we have to design one. Then we write about the global targets of the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction. Then in conclusion, we will be summarizing the answer. So starting with the definition of disaster resilience. So disaster resilience refers to the capacity of individuals, communities, systems to anticipate, absorb, adapt, and recover from the disasters while preserving essential structures and functions. Okay, so that is the definition of a disaster resilience. Now it shifts focus from mere disaster response to long-term preparedness and sustainability. This is the significance of the disaster resilience, why it is needed. Then we have to write how is disaster resilience determined, or the determinants of the disaster resilience. First is the preparedness. That is the existence of early warning systems and disaster education. Okay. So in preparedness, there should be early warning systems in order to predict the disaster. And then we have to educate the masses, educate the people for the disaster education. Then there is response capacity, efficiency of relief operations and emergency infrastructure. Third is the recovery speed, because a resilient in disaster the recovery speed is very important. That is the ability to rebuild livelihoods. So after the disaster has struck, how ready we are in order, like how speedily or how fast we can recover the livelihoods, the housing, and the essential, or how can we restore the essential services at the earliest. Okay, so it includes rebuilding livelihoods, rebuilding houses, as well as the essential services, restoring the essential services. Then there is adaptive capacity, incorporation of disaster risk reduction measures into the development planning. Okay. Now, what are the different elements of a resilience framework? Now, if we have to design a resilience framework, what elements should be there in that resilience framework? First is the risk assessment. We have to identify hazards, identify the vulnerabilities and the exposure. Then there is infrastructure resilience, disaster resilient housing, roads, power, and health facilities. Third is the participation of the communities or community participation that involves local institutions, NGOs, civic society, and the citizens. Fourth is the governance and institutions. Effective disaster management authorities should be there and the coordination mechanisms are there. There should be a protocol like what happens after a disaster has struck. Then there is capacity building, training, awareness programs, and drills. Finally, there is sustainable development linkages, integrating disaster risk reduction with climate action, urban planning, and poverty reduction. Okay. Then the Sendai framework that was established in year 2015 till the year 2030, and it has set certain global targets for the disaster risk reduction. Now, what are these 7 targets? First is substantially reduce the global disaster mortality. Number one target is to reduce the mortality. The number of people that are dying of the disasters should be brought down. Then is the reduce in number of affected people globally. The number of casualties have to become down, and the number of people who are directly or indirectly affected by the disaster, that number should also be come down. Then reduce direct economic loss in relation to the global GDP. After reducing the loss of lives, there should be a reduction in the uh, in the economic loss. Then reduce damage to critical infrastructure and the basic services. Okay, critical infrastructure should be saved or should be ensured that it is not damaged that much, and the basic services, the damage to be basic services has should also be contained. Increase availability of multi-hazard early warning system. Okay, there should be presence of the early warning systems, and these early warning systems should be for multiple hazards. Okay, not limited to any one disaster. Then there are enhanced international cooperation to developing countries. Increase national and local disaster risk reduction strategies by 2020 and maintain by 2030. In conclusion, we'll summarize by writing that disaster resilience is crucial in the face of rising climate related and natural hazards. Okay. So, climate related and natural hazards are rising, and that is why disaster resilience becomes crucial. The Sendai framework provides a comprehensive roadmap emphasizing risk reduction, preparedness, and global cooperation. This is what the Sendai framework does. Strengthening resilience ensures the societies can withstand shocks and move towards a sustainable and safer future. This is the way forward or a forward looking line. Moving on to the next question, that is question number 18. Flooding in urban areas is an emerging climate induced disaster. Now, this is an introductory statement. Discuss the causes of this disaster. What disaster? That is flooding in urban areas or the urban floods. So, the question is talking about urban floods. Mention the features of two such major floods in the last 2 decades in India. So, last 2 decades means post 2005. Okay. This question was asked in 2024, so we can say post 2004. Okay. So, two such incidents of major urban floods in the country. Then we have to describe the policies and frameworks in India that aim at tackling such floods. Okay. What policies and frameworks has been designed or developed by the government in order to tackle the urban floods. Now, this is a 15-mark question that we have to answer in 250 words. Mapping it with the syllabus, we can see that it has been asked from the subject of disaster management and the topic is urban floods. Okay. Now, starting with the introduction. In introduction, we will be describing what is urban flooding or urban floods. Then in body, we write about the causes of urban flooding because it has been asked in the question. Then we write the two examples of the major urban floods in India in the last 2 decades or 20 years. Then the policies and frameworks in India. And in conclusion, we write a summarizing line and a way forward line or a forward looking line. Starting with introduction, urban flooding has become a frequent phenomena. So it has become a frequent phenomena in India due to climate change, rapid urbanization, and poor planning. So what are the three pillars or the three factors? That is climate change, rapid urbanization, and poor planning. That is leading to increased instances or the frequent instances of urban flooding in the country. Unlike rural floods, urban floods cause greater disruption as they affect critical infrastructure, livelihoods, and the economy. Okay, so the impact of urban floods is more on the economy, on the livelihoods, and the infrastructure as compared to the rural flooding. Then we write what are the causes of the urban flooding. First, we have seen that this is the climate change. So, erratic and intense rainfall event due to global warming. Okay. Second is the unplanned urbanization. Encroachment on wetlands, lakes, and floodplains is another crucial factor. Third is the poor drainage systems. So, outdated or clogged drainage in the cities that are unable to handle heavy rainfall. Okay. Rapid urbanization, more and more population are migrating to the cities, and the drainage systems were like they are out of date. Okay, they were designed or they were laid down to handle certain population, but now the population in the cities have grown 2 times or 3 times in the past 30-40 years, and the present drainage system seems inefficient or not sufficient. Then there is reduced natural absorption. We have concretized the whole cities. Okay, so concrete surfaces hinder the groundwater recharge. So if there is a bare ground, the earth can easily, the ground can readily absorb that water. But now we have laid roads, the footpaths, and everything, buildings, and there. So there are the cities have become the jungles of concrete, and there is very poor absorption of the this water through this concrete, and the groundwater table is is also not recharging. Then riverine and coastal flooding. Overflows of rivers and storm surges in the coastal cities. Okay, so cities in India, either the cities they are located on the banks of river, or they are on cities, most of the cities they are on the coastal regions. Okay, so majority of the large cities in India, they are either on a river or they are in the coastal area. Now, this also enhances the urban flooding because in the monsoon months, the river it swells and the storm surges during certain times of the year that also leads to urban flooding. Now we see in the last 2 decades the major urban floods in the country, that is the Mumbai floods of 2005 and the Chennai floods of 2015. These two are the classic or the most prominent examples of urban flooding. Now Mumbai flood of 2005 was caused by a cloudburst, okay, and that recorded 944 mm rainfall in 24 hours. And its impact was over 1,000 people died. There was citywide transport and economic paralysis. The lesson that we learned, that is inadequate drainage, Methi River encroachment aggravated the disaster. Okay. The Chennai flood, similarly, the cause was record northeast monsoon rainfall. So, as you know, the coast of Tamil Nadu, Chennai lies on the coast of Tamil Nadu, that receives rainfall from the receding northeast leg of monsoon, okay, in the month of October around. And that release of excess water from Chembarakkam reservoir, okay. So, releasing of water from the reservoir and the intense monsoon rainfall led to the Chennai floods of 2015. The impact was that more than 500 people died, IT hub industries were disrupted, so economic activities disrupted, and there was rupees 15,000 crore economic loss. The lesson that we learned, the encroachment of wetlands and poor reservoir management worsened the flooding. Okay, so encroachment in both the cases, there was inadequate drainage because of the Methi River encroachment in case of Mumbai floods and the encroachment of wetlands in case of Chennai floods. Then the policies and frameworks in India. First is the most important one is the Disaster Management Act of 2005 that institutionalized framework through National Disaster Management Authority and the State Disaster Management Authorities. Second is the National Disaster Management Policy of 2009 that focus on preparedness, mitigation and resilient infrastructure. Okay, so focus is on uh, pre-disaster, that is preparing for the disaster, mitigating or reducing its impact, and making resilient infrastructure. Third is the National Urban Flood Risk Mitigation Project for stormwater drainage and urban resilience. Now, this is in the planning phase. Then there is Atal Mission for Rejuvenation and Urban Transformation, that is AMRUT, for modernizing the urban drainage in the cities. Then National Monsoon Mission and IMD forecasting for early warning and real-time alerts regarding the monsoon patterns or the heavy rainfall. So we are able to provide real-time or early warning in case there is heavy rains are imminent in a particular region. Finally, there are state action plans on climate change that integrate climate resilience with the urban planning. Writing the conclusion. So urban floods are no longer rare. So they are frequent. So they are a recurring climate-induced hazard in Indian cities. Building resilience requires a combination of strong governance, resilient infrastructure, wetland restoration, and effective early warning systems. Okay. What do we need? We need strong governance, resilient infrastructure, wetland restoration, and effective early warning system. Sustainable urban planning aligned with climate adaptation is key to reducing flood risk in the future. So this is a forward-looking conclusion. Because if we are talking about disaster, we have to also provide certain solutions. Then moving on to the next question, that is question number 19. India has a long and troubled border with China and Pakistan fraught with contentious issues. So this is an introductory statement. Now, if any introductory statement is given in a question, that statement has to be dealt with in the answer, and that too in the introduction of answer itself. Okay. Examine the conflicting issues and security challenges along the border. So this is the question. It is asking us to examine the conflicting issues and security challenges. What conflicting issues are there with on the border with Pakistan? What conflicting issues are there on border with China? And what are the security challenges across both the borders? Also give out development being undertaken in these areas under Border Area Development Program and Border Infrastructure Management Scheme. Okay, so we have to write about these two schemes or programs as well. So it is a 15-mark question that we have to answer in 250 words. Mapping it with the syllabus, we can see that it has been asked from the subject of security or internal security, and the topic is security challenges and their management in the border areas. Now, seeing the approach, in introduction, we will be dealing with the introductory statement. So we describe the border situation with Pakistan and China. Then in body, we address the actual demand of question by writing the conflicting issues and security challenges on both the borders. So conflicting issues with Pakistan, conflicting issues with China, security challenges along Pakistan border, security challenges along the Chinese border. Then what development initiatives like the two schemes. Then in conclusion, we will be summarizing the answer. Now, starting with introduction, India shares a long and troubled border with Pakistan. With Pakistan, we have a border of around 3,300 kilometers, and with China, that is a bit longer, that is 3,400 or 3,500 kilometer border. These frontiers are marked by territorial disputes. So, what happens in these borders? So, there are territorial disputes, there are cross-border hostilities on both the borders, and there are security concerns. Ensuring peace and development in these sensitive regions is a strategic priority. So, this is our introduction. Then we write conflicting issues and security challenges. What are such issues and challenges with Pakistan? So, with Pakistan, there are cross border terrorism and infiltration along the line of control. Okay. Then there are territorial dispute over Jammu and Kashmir and sponsorship of insurgency. So, what are the issues? First is the territorial dispute. Then there is cross-border terrorism. There is sponsorship of insurgency from the Pakistani side and infiltration from the Pakistani side along the line of control. And there are frequent ceasefire violations and smuggling of arms and narcotics, especially in the state of Punjab. The narcotic situation in Punjab is not so good. Then with China. What are the conflicting issues and security challenges with along with the Chinese border? So there is border dispute along the line of actual control, especially in the Aksai Chin as well as the Arunachal Pradesh. So in both the eastern border as well as the western border with China, there are border disputes regarding the territories. Then incidents of military standoff, example in the Galwan 2020 and Doklam in 2017. Third is the infrastructure gap between India and China in border areas. So Chinese, they have developed a very robust infrastructure on their border, and in India is still lagging behind. Okay, we are focusing on developing our infrastructure in the border areas, but we still are like way uh, we are lagging behind the Chinese. Then the challenges of Chinese assertiveness in the Indian Ocean and the strategic encirclement. Now, this is not a case with Pakistan, but with China. Now, China, with its string of pearls, is trying to strategically encircle India in the northern Indian Ocean. Then the two border initiatives or the development initiatives. First is the Border Area Development Program or BADP, and second is the Border Infrastructure Management Scheme. We have to evaluate these two schemes or programs. So the Border Area Development Program was launched in 1986-87 to ensure balanced development in the border villages. Okay, as the name suggests, there should be balanced development in the border villages. It focuses on the infrastructure, that is roads, bridges, schools, health centers, irrigation, electrification, and livelihood promotion. And there is special focus on making model villages near the international border. So villages that are near the international borders, they are made into model villages, and these are provided with ample physical infrastructure as well as the social infrastructure. The objective of BADP is that to reduce the sense of alienation and integrate border population with the mainstream. So the people who are living near the border, they should not get this feeling of alienation, and they should be integrated with the mainstream or the mainland India. Then there is Border Infrastructure and Management Scheme. It was a consolidated scheme launched in 2019-20 for construction of fences, border outposts, roads, and surveillance systems. It emphasizes on modern technological solutions like smart fencing, flood lighting, and electronic surveillance. Now, this is mainly for the strategic purposes, that is focusing on making fences, flood lighting, and electronic surveillance. That is, it aids our defense or the armed forces. Then there is support to efficient border guarding and quick troop mobilization. So this is more holistic and civil, and this border infrastructure management scheme is more for strategy. Then, in conclusion, we can summarize by writing that India's border with Pakistan and China remains sensitive due to historic disputes and persistent security threats. Alongside military preparedness, development programs like BADP and BIM strengthen border infrastructure, improve local livelihood, and build trust in border communities, making them vital for national security and integration. So, this is a summary of the entire answer. Now, when we write an answer in the mains examination. So, in introduction, we tell the examiner what we intend to write in the body of the answer. In body of the answer, we answer the question, we address the demand of the question, and then in conclusion, we again highlight to the examiner what we have already written in the body of the answer. Now, moving on to the last question, that is question number 20. Social media and encryptive messaging services pose a serious security challenge. Now, this is an introductory statement, and we will be dealing with this introductory statement in the introduction itself. What measures have been adopted at various levels to address the security implications of social media? Also suggest any other remedies to address the problem. Okay. So it is a 15-mark question that we have to answer in 250 words. Mapping it with the syllabus, we can see that it has been asked from the subject of security, and the topic is role of media and social networking sites in internal security challenges. Now it is asking us two things. It is asking us what measures have the government already adopted at various levels to address the security implications of social media. And it is asking us for us to also write some of the suggestions. Now, starting with introduction, in introduction, we will be writing about the rise of communication platforms and the associated threats. That is, we will be addressing the introductory statement that was given in the question. Then in body, we write what measures have been adopted till now and will also suggest remedies. Then in conclusion, we will be summarizing the answer because we have already written about the remedies. So our conclusion might not be that much way forward. So we will not be writing a way forward in the conclusion. That will be just repeating the points. So, starting with introduction, social media platforms and encrypted messaging services have transformed communication but also pose a security challenge, serious security challenges. They are misused for terror recruitment. So, what are the threats? That is terror recruitment, spreading fake news, hate speech, financial frauds, cyber espionage, and coordination of unlawful activities. Finally, there are addressing these threats requires multi-level interventions. Okay. Now, we write the measures of what measures have been adopted at various levels. So, first is the legislative and policy framework. At the legislative level, there is Information Technology Act of 2000 and its rules to regulate misuse of the digital platform. Second is the IT rules of 2021 that were notified under this Information Technology Act of 2000. It mandates traceability, grievance redressal, and removal of unlawful content. Then is the proposed personal data protection bill to balance privacy with security. The second level is at institutional and technical measures. So that is the establishment of Indian Cyber Crime Coordination Center, that is I4C, Indian Cyber Crime Coordination Center for monitoring and investigation. Then there is Cyber Swachhata Kendra for malware and botnet cleaning. CERT in, that is Computer Emergency Response Team for incident response and alerts. Finally, we have NatGrid and Netra for intelligence sharing and monitoring suspicious activities on the web. Finally, there is at law enforcement and international cooperation level. What measures we have already taken? Training of police in cyber forensics and digital surveillance. Collaboration with tech companies for content removal and compliance. Okay, so especially the social media companies. Then is international cooperation through Interpol, FATF, and bilateral agreements. Now, what measures can we suggest or we recommend? First is the AI-driven monitoring to detect deepfakes, hate speech, and extremist propaganda. Because AI is the buzz of the town. So, in our answer, we will be writing about the AI or the induction of AI in monitoring to detect what is deepfake, what is hate speech, or we have to differentiate between these extreme propaganda. Then there is digital literacy campaigns to curb misinformation among citizens. Okay, raising awareness or digital literacy in the citizens is paramount. Then there are stricter platform accountability for harmful content. The social media platforms, they need to be held accountable for the content that is shared on their platform. Okay. Then balancing privacy and security through judicial oversight on surveillance. Finally, public-private partnership for faster technological adaptation. Okay, so these are the general points. That is the public-private partnership, balancing privacy and security. So these are the common or the generic points that we can answer. We can write in the suggested remedies. Now, in conclusion, we summarize the answer by writing that while social media and encrypted platforms enhance connectivity, okay, there is no doubt that social media and encrypted platforms they enhance connectivity, but their misuse poses grave national security and social harmony risks. A combination of robust laws, advanced technology, global cooperation, and citizen awareness is essential to ensure digital platforms remain instruments of empowerment rather than the threats. So, what we can give, we can write there should be robust laws at the legislative level, advanced technology, that is use of AI to detect certain things, international cooperation or global cooperation, and citizen awareness or digital literacy. So these should be the pillars by which we can ensure that the social media does not cause much harm to the national security in India. The PDF of this model answers will be available to you on Shikara Academy's